Hello everyone, welcome to another car profile, otherwise known as the BoP test of course, and as you can see in front of you we have the Ford Mustang Gr.3 car. An interesting car because I have raced it once before, which is at Monza, and it does feel like a very typical American car again. Now we've had that with a few of the others like the Viper. So it's front engined, rear wheel drive. Does look good as well, as you can see there. Mustang always looks good, especially the front. I do love the front of that car. Very aggressive, nose down. And it's a very interesting car to actually use. As I say, I've used it before, and when I used it last time, it was a fairly easy car to drive. You know, it was my first time at Monza. I went straight out, and I was racing fairly quickly. And that's the same experience that I got in the BoP test. So as we go on to Brands Hatch now. We do 4 tracks, remember. Brands Hatch tests its undulations. It's quite a fast flowing circuit, so you do need downforce and the ability to turn. We head up to Druids. Paddock Hill Bend, not too many issues. So come around here, we did suffer with the exit a little bit, just wheel spin. Very typical of this group, second and third gear, you get a lot of wheel spin, the rear can get a bit twitchy. Through there we go, we did suffer a bit of an understeering Graham Hill Bend as we continue on here. Interestingly, sort of a middle line approach was the best way on that corner. I'm not sure why, it just felt the best after a while, and as you can see we're up on our lap time. Lap 15 obviously is going to be our fastest because that's the one we're watching now, so we've continually improved here as we head up to this right hander. I had to drop to third gear here just to get the extra turn in. So the one thing I found with the car is you need to be at the top of the revs to really get going. Now obviously the exception is second gear, top end of second, you get a lot of wheel spin, so you do have to be careful with that. As I say, second, third gear in most of the cars in this class have issues there. Continue on into this left-hander. We're still on for a good lap here. We just lost a little bit of time in sector 4 as we continue on. Our current optimum, and that's what we're looking for, of course, not necessarily our fastest. I'll just show you the fastest lap, just so you get an idea of how to drive the car. It's a 122.6. Don't rev the car quite as much as I do there on the other parts of this, but even so, we get a 122.633. So quite slow really, but it's expected. Lots of understeer there, but it was fairly stable as we go to Dragon Trail. Now, as expected at Dragon Trail, we are going to see a fairly quick time. This car is about power. You know, it's American muscle essentially, and that's what's in the profile of the car. Coming through here, you can abuse the curbs. Struggled a little bit on exit occasionally with rear wanting to step out, but you can catch this car very easily if the rear does step out. It is a car which is easily catchable. Lots of understeering that slight right-hander coming into here. Did struggle there a few times. Initially, I ran way wide, so it does require, you know, some adjustments. Quite often, you're going to have to let off. 2.6, fairly quick first sector there. Again, this is all about pace. As we come into here, we're dropping our apex speed there down a couple of miles an hour compared to other cars. Again, that's just due to understeer, and you will suffer understeer throughout this section in this car. As we continue on towards the right hand, obviously we're testing curbs here, speed track as well, and obviously the stability out of this corner coming up, this right hander as we come into the corner. So I dropped to second here. Obviously some cars are staying third. Ran a little bit wide here, potentially I should have been able to turn in a bit sooner. If we get a 30.7, we're really looking at a 30.6 I believe for the sector 2. The chicane had no issues. Believe it or not, I had more issues coming out of the first part of the bus stop than I did at the chicane. Now I crashed a couple of times at the chicane, as you're meant to do, so you know you can push the limits. But even so, the first part I kept understeering into the barriers, so you do be careful there. Always stay tight in this car in that last corner, always stay tight, because you can instantly get the power down and instantly come out that corner. You lose very little time in the grand scheme of it versus taking a slightly wider line. We get a 136.845 there fastest, down to a 0.740 optimum, so it's way up there at Dragon Trail in terms of lap times, and that is expected. As we head to Interlagos, undulations, curbs again. Obviously we've got the sort of last sector, which is about power as well. This has a little bit of power in the first sector as well, but the middle sector is the core of this track, where how does it handle itself with the undulations and the turns. Now we did suffer a bit of understeer there on the Senna S as we're going to get a 22, I think. Oh, we get a 23.0. Our fastest is a 22.9 for something or another, I think it was. As we continue through there. Got to be dead aggressive out that corner. Let the rear slide a little bit. If you let the rear slide in this car, it does catch itself quite quickly. Just the way the power curve is. It's like it's basically like a temple. So you don't over rev it. So when I said, you know, you don't go to extremes, there are exceptions there where I didn't want to change gear. You just get to the limiter and then you change, and that's where you change in this car. because after that it drops massively very quickly in terms of power. As we come into here now, through there we go. Didn't really suffer that much. Again, didn't suffer with the bump here at all, really. The main issue I had is understeer, and it suffers with understeer a little bit more than most FR cars. As we come through this last corner now, accelerates out, and kept about the same as the fastest lap. Got 45.0 set to 2, which is fairly slow in the grand scheme of it. I think our fastest was a 44.9, but I only saw that once. Obviously, you can keep going forever and ever with these. We have a maximum of 15 laps, so yeah, this was the best. After this point, that was the best I think I found, really. And as you can see there, we got our fastest lap sector there. So, you know, 130.759, not too bad in the grand scheme of it, because the middle section is technical. It was really boosted on Interlagos by the last sector and first sector, because last sector it could just power up the hill. So Suzuka is probably the most balanced circuit in the 4 circuits we'd look at, which is good. Just coming into here, bit of understeer under initial braking, trail braking, it doesn't mind it at all. Especially as you drop down the gears, it will then start to react a little bit better. But initial power understeer is there as well. So coming into here, absolutely no real problems, just the understeer as I've already explained through these S's, which is why we're going to get a 33.1 and we're not in the 32s like some of the fastest cars around, because they don't understeer as much obviously, so they can go through the center S's quicker. Now we've got Tidgney 1 and Tidgney 2, no real issues here. Again, it's just understeer through, there we go. You just see me run slightly wide there into here. Tidgney 1, initially I had issues, but then I just stayed in 3rd gear and then it all went away, as you can see there. 19.203, fairly slow Tidgney 1 and 2. Again, it's just this understeer. It does exist as we come into the hairpin. Accelerate out there. I did try 2nd gear initially just to accelerate out with less wheel spin. Didn't really work, so the initial power of 1st gear does help. And as I say, if you want to turn in this car, you've got to be at the top end of the rev range. It does help with turning. Heading towards Spoon, again, slight understeer here. As you start to accelerate out, it's going to start pushing you out very quickly, as you see there. I stay in 3rd gear here for stability, which helps massively. Even though we lost a tiny bit of time there in the corner, our fastest lap on lap 8. That's where we gained all the time suddenly, so that's why I've kept it that. Our speed trap coming up, you know it's going to be fast here as we get to 157. In fact, potentially I think that may have even been top end of 157, approaching 158. I've not gone through every lap, but I look at the fastest sector 3 lap and my fastest lap overall. That's how I pull the sector, fastest speed on that speed trap. That's how I do it basically. No issues at the chicane. You can accelerate out the chicane very quickly and easily as well to get a 58.8 there lap time, but we're actually down to a 0.015. So not too bad again at Suzuka. It's quite a balanced circuit. Loses out in sort of the high speed stuff and then gains in the gains on the straights, but loses out on the corners. So as you can see there, the Ford Mustang is down in 14th position. Just working that out there, and you just saw me scroll down a little bit. So it's in and around the BMW Z4, the Hyundai Genesis, very similar to that car, by the way, in terms of handling. So it's a very easy car to drive. You can see that there. No huge issues. I've mentioned the 2nd, 3rd gear issues already. Very easy car to catch, and you can be very consistent. Car is more balanced at the top of the revs, as I say. So if you're going through a corner and you're struggling with the rear, just get to top end of an additional gear. 2nd, be careful though. Otherwise, that's absolutely fine. Slightly short shift, not too much, but just slight, and that will help. With speed, no issues with weight transfer at all, no issues with bumps, no issues with curbs. It's all very well and good, but the big thing, obviously, it suffers with understeer, which is like a normal, typical American profile of a car. Suffers with understeer, can't do corners, but it's got all the power in the world, as you can see by the 157 miles an hour. Giving it a risk indicator of 1, because I don't really think there's an issue with that car. Good car, really, if you're struggling with oversteer. You could get used to this car fairly quickly, put in some solid laps. Power 109 and weight is 100. I think that's the exact same as the old GTR. So yeah, that's in there as well. But yeah, that's the end of that car profile, so I hope you enjoyed that. Now I have added the others to the spreadsheet if you want to have a look at that, and I've put them in sort of an order, so like Peugeot isn't next to each other, both Volkswagens aren't next to each other, and the Toyota Supra's on there now, and the new Lexus RCF GT3 is on there as well. I know we've already looked at the Lexus prototype, but the GT3 is on there. And as I know somebody mentioned about the M6, both M6s, they're slightly different in setup. I'll look at that, but personally I don't want to test the same car again. And I've also added all the horsepowers and weights of the adjusted patch balance of performances, if you haven't noticed already. So we'll test those as well. But that's it for now. Thanks very much for watching. My logo's there if you want to subscribe. There's a video playlist there if you want to watch any more of the car profiles. But that's it for now. Thanks very much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.